We do get free lunches.
You do get free
okay with
lunches, yes, and
It's the best payment.
That's I say
Well, I mean-
that's a really low rate for you guys. I am undervaluing you heavily. Here's some Firehouse. Give me 10 hours of your time.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Imperative Narrative Podcast, the show by storytellers, about storytellers, and for storytellers. We are your hosts, Lukas Arnold.
And Kurt Camphausen, and today we are joined by the head of video production at the Summit Church, Mr. Kyle Uptergrove. Yay! Our first time to use the applause. That is so great.
Yeah, that's more like it. That's more like it. Yeah.
And quickly followed by.
Yeah. I hear one thing, everybody else hears the other.
Yeah.
So, in case you're wondering, we're good friends with Kyle, and this may be the most ridiculous episode of season 1, but it's going to be fun. It's gonna be good.
I really wanted to intro him as our sensei because he's who we've learned video from.
Yeah.
most
I was
of
going to
all.
say,
Yeah.
if there's anybody, in all seriousness, who has contributed more to our success as freelance filmmakers, it's this guy.
Wah, wah, wah.
Which is why we
I'm
are
ready to
broke.
go.
No.
Just tech support. It's just tech support. That's all it is. Yeah.
All right, Kyle, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got started in the filmmaking world.
Wow. Well, yeah, like you said, I am the video producer here at the Summit Church. I've been in this role for 11 years. I went to University of Central Arkansas, got a degree in digital filmmaking. As soon as I graduated, I got a job in tech support and went after
Perfect.
that instead of really chase my dreams there, put that college degree to use. But really, yeah, just pursued video production on the side here at the Summit, mostly just as a volunteer, in a volunteer capacity, and really was given a lot of opportunities to serve and make some really, really bad videos.
Which you can still find on YouTube.
Yeah, they're still out there. But did that for a couple of years, and then the opportunity opened up to have a full-time job here, and came and worked here, and have been doing that for the last 11 years. And so our team is responsible for any kind of video storytelling, creative elements that we use in services, that kind of thing. So
You also do a bunch of freelance work, too. Who are some of the people you got to work with?
there's a company called Web's Edge, based out of England, that like London, England, not England, Arkansas. We're a small little country town.
Yeah.
Clarify that.
But they still have the accent.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's one of the original colonies. 14th colony. No, they've contracted us out to do some conference work for UALR and an organization called East Environmental and Spatial Technologies. Well, that's not their name anymore. They rebranded.
Or just bleep that out.
Yeah. West, as Kurt calls it. But we've done some commercial work for them. And then
Wait, this came from literally came from a place in England?
England
Yes.
is hiring stuff for UALR?
So their company that specializes in, or one of the things they do is conference video production work. So they make elements for conferences. And so there's this big educational conference deal in Atlanta, Georgia. And so they were hired to make the videos. And so they then subcontracted us back here in Little Rock. So a company that my wife worked, she's also a video producer here in Little Rock, a company she used to work for called us and said, "Hey, we can't do this. We're swamped. Would you guys want to do that?" So we took over that project and got to shoot that as well. So it's mostly corporate work, corporate internal video production type stuff that we've done a little bit of on the side. We've got 3 kids that keep us incredibly busy. So, and then obviously the work here at church keeps us busy. So not a ton of on the side freelance stuff, but I did start off in wedding videography on VHSs. I mastered my exports to VHS. This was 2001, right after I graduated from high school. I did my first wedding video on not even mini DV, it was digital 8 tapes, which are even older. Edited in MGI Video Wave.
I literally don't know any of the things that you're saying.
I'm using this is some old school stuff, but went to Office Depot, got the you could buy the little labels that you can run through your inkjet printer to print and put on the VHS tapes.
Wow.
And so we'd make 10 copies of VHSs with the wedding ceremony. I mean, compared to what you guys are doing nowadays with wedding videos, this is like people shoot better video on their iPhones at a wedding than what we were doing back then. But that was kind of how we kind of got started in a lot of that stuff and filmed a lot of those. I'm thinking of all these poor brides that are out there that have to go back and watch these VHSs of their wedding, which they can't anymore. So thank goodness for that. You know?
Yeah.
What do I do with this block thing? How do I input this in my computer? Yeah. So
into the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least they have video captured of the wedding. That like was not a very common thing.
Yeah.
Especially back then, as much as it is now. It's like booming now. But
right. Absolutely.
That's really cool that like you even have that, at least something, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
To at least see the day and stuff, you know.
Old school. Old
Yeah.
school.
Man.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
you've mentioned, of course, your wife Capilia is also in video production.
Yes.
What's that? Because Lucas and I are not married to filmmakers. Not many people have that. I don't know if
Someone in the
luxury is
same
the right
field
word.
and-
So what's
yeah.
that
Yeah.
like? That's pretty cool.
She would say it was miserable in the early days. So we've been married almost 14 years now, and dated for almost 5 before that. We started dating senior year in high school, and we started working on a video project as seniors in high school, and it was a nightmare for her. It was great for me, and the reason because she is incredibly organized, and she's an amazing producer. And I am none of those things. And so I'm just kind of fly by the seat of pants and throw it together and all that stuff. And she's just super, super detailed. And I, even during college, we were both at UCA. She's doing video production stuff there as well. And she's working on these projects. And I'm like laying on the floor in the edit suites at UCA, just being like worthless and a bum and not wanting, I'm a very bad procrastinator, which is terrible for being creative and being somebody that puts stuff off. And so she would say that it was miserable for the first half of our relationship, but I have since matured a little bit, enough that it's tolerable for her. And so we work really well together. When we get a chance to do freelance stuff, she's the one that's managing all the moving pieces, and then I'm handling just the shooting, capturing, and then we work together on the edits and stuff. And so she's somebody that I bounce almost all my work off of. It's great. You know, you get in the middle of these edits and you've watched whatever you're doing 1,700 times and you've lost all objectivity and you're just like, I don't know. I think there's something here, you know? And so you're like, can you watch this? And you're kind of cringing. And she gets to the end of it and you're like, she's like, that's really good. And then other times she's like, oh, this right here, these 5 things, change that. And you're like, oh, thank goodness, yes. I knew I needed to change something, but I just couldn't see it anymore. And so getting that outside set of eyes to watch something is so, so helpful. So you guys really screwed up not marrying filmmakers. Or
That's why we bounce ideas off each other.
Hey, after this, let's all sit down and watch your demo reel together.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's so cool because I've gotten to work with both of you guys on a shoot before, and it seems like because of your differences, it works so well. Because I've seen her in that producer.
Oh, you weren't
role,
talking about me and Kyle. You're talking about Kyle and Capilia.
Yeah, you guys aren't married either.
He's really just trying to figure out his relationship.
You and Capilia.
Yeah.
And just seeing her as like that producer director role, and you know, you taking on a lot of the actual filming of it, and the technical side. Yeah. Kyle's in the corner, just flagging something. I got it.
It's my favorite part. I love the flag.
But you've said you enjoy production most out of things.
Yeah,
and
I'm much more on the technical side.
Yeah, and she's very good at that pre-production type thing, which you absolutely hate. So going into that, for anyone who's not a filmmaker doesn't know, there's pre-production, production, and post-production.
Right.
Pre being taking care of everything that needs to be done before the shoot. Production is the actual shoot, and post-production's in the edit suite or VFX or sound, all of that.
Right.
So why do you hate pre-production so much? And what about production do you like? And what's just about post?
Okay. 3-part questions. First part.
I can repeat them if you ever need.
No, pre-production is, going back to that procrastinating side of things. I for whatever reason, I have a tough time starting the process. Once the process kind of gets started, it's a lot easier. Like we do a lot of story videos on people's lives, life change stories. Testimonials is kind of their more conservative or traditional name, I guess. But getting that first step of calling them, getting in contact with them, and starting to find out what their story is, the backstory. The pre-interview is part of that pre-production that we do. For whatever reason, I get so anxious about it. And my wife, on the other hand, she'd be like, "Give me their names, numbers, I'll do it for you," kind of thing, Yeah. And half the time I do that. But it's
well, it's like, I mean, you don't know the person.
Yeah. And I got a little bit. I have a lot of that man-fearing side of things. Can we capture your story? Is that okay? That whole deal, where you're just like, I walk on eggshells. It's so dumb because everybody here is fantastic. They want to do this, I've never had anybody go, no, that's terrible. I don't want to do that. Leave me alone. But for whatever reason in my mind, that's how I think of it every time.
And by the way, I hate you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's personal. Yeah,
and it's your fault.
Is there anybody else that I could tell my story to? Not you. Yeah. No, that's a.
Can we get Luke and Kurt in here?
Yeah.
To have them.
Let's get the imperative narrative
and their wives.
Stories. And their wives. Yeah, I'd rather have their wives
and their non-filmmaker wives
than you. Yeah. No, but that part of it. Again, the organization side of things, I'm not great at. Just even like, obviously both of you guys are on our team here in a volunteer capacity, helping.
You weren't
so much. Whoops.
I like that you emphasize that. It's like
sponsored by.
Yeah. Sponsored
I like that you really emphasize
team.
that. By the way, since you guys are both here volunteering, just want to reemphasize.
Well, I think it's important because you guys are doing this on top of all the other stuff you're involved in. You guys give so much of your time to help us, and so that's significant. It's not like there's a paycheck involved, where you just show up. And
we do get free lunches.
You do get free
okay
lunches, yes, and
it's the best payment.
That's I say that's a really low rate for you guys. I am undervaluing you heavily. Here's some Firehouse. Give me 10 hours of your time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you it's only going to take 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's part
where
of the pre-production
comes back around.
So yeah, I'm somehow connected to all that. I'm heavily underrating what it takes to do something. So again,
literally for the first 6 months that we were on Story Team, we'd be like, Kyle, when are we doing the shoot? He'd be like, all right, we're going to do it here. And at this time, and we'd get to that point and he'd be like, it's canceled. 5 times in a row. We were like, he just doesn't want us to be involved. He's like, they're going to screw it up. Or
it was really rough getting the team dynamic started. I wasn't such a great team leader or follow througher, if that's a thing. But yeah, just organizing and getting all that stuff and being realistic with times and stuff. I'm trying to get better at that. Basically, my wife she told me one time, she's like, you just need to say whatever you think it takes and double that. Because that's always what it ends up doing. It's always twice as long as that shoot last week. It was supposed to be 2 hours, was 3 hours, so we'd have been great.
That was pretty good though.
4.
Yeah. And I feel like we all do that though. Once you get there, you're like, oh man, but I want to get this. And you kind of get into the mode, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Well, and that's where having extra people on hand that are like your ADs and stuff like that, that are on top of stuff, saying, "Hey, listen, here's the time. You need to be moving. You're fretting over this decision about, do I put the light here? Do I move it here? Do I set the camera there? Just you got to go. Yeah, you got to move on. And so that's where I really struggle with a lot of those things, and some people are really good at doing everything, being really balanced. I don't know. I'm giving credit to some people out there that I don't think really
don't
exist.
even know.
I don't think they really. I don't. But
there are some people. I'm sure.
I don't want to flat out say they don't exist, but they don't. No. But that's where surrounding yourself with a lot of competent people that have different skill sets than you is really, really valuable, and that's what I've loved the most about having our team. Is involving so many different people to do those things and to be able to recognize, hey, this is where you're weak at or you're not strong. Let me do that. Because I thrive in this environment doing this specific, role or task. And it breathes life into me and hopefully, encourages them and helps get them more experience and adds to their demo reel and all the mighty demo reel.
So I'm just going to share a story. Just to talk about going back to how Kyle has single-handedly been one of the main guys to help me and Lukas both get into freelancing. We had, I don't know when this episode is airing, but I've mentioned that Ray Allen, we either had him, has he been on at this point?
No.
Ray, he hasn't. Okay, in a future episode,
Spoiler
I guess.
alert.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me address this too. Kurt has a haircut.
Oh my God.
He has a haircut right now.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Yeah.
But he got it. This is episode 5. he got it after we've already filmed episode 6.
Oh. Continuity.
Continuity. Way to go, Kurt. Can't even keep the episode straight.
I know. Okay. Anyway, so Ray Eller was like my first client, but Kyle was the guy that said, hey, Ray's doing video stuff. You should totally ask him about doing some free work. And then I asked Ray, and I just used Kyle's equipment for every single shoot now.
Yeah. But here's the thing is Kyle knew that you hadn't done much video work, and he's like, go work for Ray.
Let me tell you.
I hate Ray, so I sent you to it.
Talking about demo reels, mine was so bad. I remember sending it to Ray, and he was nice. He was like, yeah, it looks great. Do this free thing. You're good. It was so bad.
Oh, first demo reels are the worst. Yeah. All of us.
I still haven't made one to this day. I've been doing video production for like 15 years. I'm terrified of it.
Yeah, you get into it, and you're like, oh, but that one's bad.
Yeah.
Oh, but that shot's
bad.
I
use? Yeah. How much can I mine from the last 2 projects I did? Because the last 400 before that are terrible, and I don't want to use anything.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about that a little bit, how like that's kind of a good thing.
Right.
Like each year you want to look back and be like, ooh, don't like that.
Yeah.
Because you want to be in the sense that you want to be growing. You know?
Right.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So why do you like production so much?
It's fun to try to, we've done, I don't know. I need to try to figure it out sometime. Hundreds of testimonials or story videos. And those can become really cookie cutter. They can look the same, real boring. And so trying to approach those in a different way, a creative way, at least in the environment and the lighting and the setup, I just really enjoy that part for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but I have that tech background, so I love equipment and all that. And so I love to try to do things a little differently. I need to get more experimental. I need to be a little more, I'd say that's one area I lack, is that I'm maybe a little afraid to a little conservative, to try and just go for something that's totally different. We've done that occasionally. And everything that, I say that is one of the cool things about the summit is it's really, everybody's really affirming here, I mean, we're not like, everything's just sunshine and roses and there's no problems or that didn't work or that didn't hit. We evaluate and critique stuff here, but everybody, they're over affirmative almost, in such a way that I just always feel really, really encouraged here. And so, I should take more risks and try new things, than I do. But that's one of the things I enjoy about the production side of stuff is getting a team together, getting people together, and then trying to approach it in a different way. And I love rigging and that kind of stuff. I'm probably doing it really, really bad and really dangerous, and not quite up to grip standards. But it's just fun to take tools and use them in different ways. And Summit, again, I can't speak enough high praise about leadership here in valuing the importance of storytelling. And so they invest in that. And so for the last 10, 11 years now, they've been increasing what we have. They give us resources to get more and more equipment to take that production level up. And I think that's because they recognize, and we all do, the importance of media in this day and age when everybody's watching video every day, all day, on their phones, at home, wherever, even just driving down the road, you've got advertisements and stuff like that. At the gas station, they're playing videos, so there's screens in front of us all the time. And so if we're not putting content there, then we're just kind of being silent and missing an opportunity. And so they recognize the value of that. So that's really, really good. So I love to try to do things like that, try to utilize. Now that we got the team, it's a lot easier. Before it was crazy trying to do all this as a one-man shop. It wasn't as fruitful either, and so I think that's where we've really benefited. Templates. Oh yeah. No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to After Effects, I bought it. It's not the template that is.
Yeah.
But talking about a church media, I think this is an interesting dynamic because we've kind of talked to all these great creatives, but it's not really in the context that you're in. What has that been like to see over the past 10, 11 years of kind of the evolution, so to speak, of media in the church context?
Oh, I mean, you look out and you can see amazing filmmakers working in church contexts. You've got churches like Elevation and New Spring, Bethel. I'm not naming near enough of these places. Christ Fellowship in Florida. There's just a ton of awesome churches that have these large teams, large staffs even, of creatives working, and they're making some really, really great content. And they're shooting with incredible equipment, and some are just shooting with, Canon C100s or DSLRs or, whatever, the whole gamut. and they're making some really, really good stuff. And I think, as churches, a lot of people might say, hey, what's the relevance of church in this day and age anymore? We're becoming less and less religious as a country, and maybe some of the traditional values are being frowned upon, things like that, by culture as a whole. And so I think us showing authenticity through storytelling, and showing how what we preach and talk about all the time is real, and how it's played out in somebody's life and what they've experienced, I think adds a ton of credibility to what we're talking about, and shows people, hey, this is something that is tangible. It's not just this idea.
One of the things too.
Did you see that?
Kyle's face.
Did you see that?
He's like totally engaged. He's like,
I was like, where's it going?
One of the things that you have been very good at, that I know I'm not as good about this, is just the technical side of things, like especially coming from that IT background and just knowing a lot about equipment and things like that. And you just do a ton of research on stuff to know. Is that just, how did that develop? Was that just a genuine interest in the technical side of things? And then how has that helped when it comes to shooting and figuring out how you want to do things and go about things?
Yeah, that I think that's just part of the way I'm wired. I love to learn a lot of stuff. Now, whether I can execute what I've learned is a totally different. There's probably a really large chasm between those two sides of the equation. But I love learning this stuff, and the internet, obviously, and YouTube and everything out there allows us to get to that content so much easier. And so, from the early days of following Philip Bloom and Film Riot and Shane Hurlbutt and Vincent LaFerre.
If any of you guys want to be on the podcast, we'd have you on.
Yeah. I will step away from the microphone gladly and just sit over there giddy and watch those amazing guys.
Can you get us some connections there? You know Philip Bloom.
I stalk a lot of people on social media. I can. Yeah, I did meet Philip Bloom at NAB last year, 2018.
He probably remembers you.
I'm sure. He remembers a buddy of mine that went with me, Justin Farley, who's like 8 foot tall. The only thing he said to us, we were like, "Hey, can we take a picture?" And he's like, "Oh gosh, yeah, sure, fine, whatever." Not because he's that way. He's an amazing, nice guy, but he's just taking his 400th picture of the day, probably. Yeah. But my friend Justin's 18 foot tall. He looks up at him and he goes, "Wow, you're tall." And that's it. And then it's a terrible British accent. I don't even know that I was trying. But
the tall seemed British, but the "wow, you're" seemed very American.
Wow. You're tall.
Well, you're tall. I can't. Fun story. I auditioned for Christmas Carol in high school, and my British accent was so bad that they cast me as the ghost of Christmas Future. And so they put silent. Me. It doesn't have any lines. Wears a giant black robe, walks out and points. Even my British point was bad. The prosthetic British point finger on my hand.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so so watching those guys online, reading stuff. You've got Pro Video Coalition, Cinema 5D, News Shooter, all these incredible websites. And then these YouTube guys that have so much good content out there. And I love learning that stuff. And trying to find out, comparisons between light fixtures and cameras and lenses and memory card speeds. And, I have a shopping list, that's longer than I'll ever get to, of stuff I want to get, the toys. And all those guys would say it's not about the equipment. But they are just tools you can use to help increase that production value. And so I love that side of the equation, just learning as much as I can.
Would your what's a typical setup look like for you? What do you have in your everyday arsenal?
In answering that, how was your equipment? What did you start off with? Yeah, like what have you progressed to?
Yeah, so when like I said, the Summit's been great about giving me an opportunity as a volunteer. When I first started, we had a Panasonic DVX 100, which is a little mini DV camera. It was special because it was one of the first video cameras that could shoot 24 frames per second, which sounds crazy, but a lot of them shot just 30 frames per second on the video cameras back. This was circa 2002, I think, 2003. It's like a $4,500 camera, I think, in that ballpark. And so we got one of those here at the church, and we started just shooting everything. And we had, when I came on staff, we had we still had that DVX, but we were able to quickly upgrade to an HVX, which is the HD version of that Panasonic camera, and a basic little Lowell DP light kit that had a little 1 foot by 1 foot softbox and a 1,000 watt Omni light. I mean, just real basic stuff. And we grew in a little Manfrotto tripod that we still use to this day. So if you get a good tripod, it'll last forever. But we eventually got to expand to DSLR. So we went to a Canon 7D, and that got us into the DSLR filmmaking side of things. And then got 2 of those, and then moved up to Canon C100s. And so that's what we shoot with now. Hopefully this next budget year, we'll have a Canon C200 and move into the 4K realm, and I'll stop having to borrow my wife's camera and everybody else's camera that has that ability. But yeah, we shoot Canon C100s. We've got Sigma and Canon lenses that we'll film with. We use Quasar lights, Aperture 300D, 120D Mark II lights, Impact, mostly Impact brand, C-stands, and Chimera softboxes. I think what else? SanDisk memory cards. Find a link in the description below.
All of these
and sandbags we use as well.
Any of these want to sponsor us, we're more than happy.
Don't buy Amazon sandbags; they tear and break very quickly. Obviously,
don't say that. Amazon, you can.
This is sponsored by Amazon.
They're not Amazon branded. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
They're the cheap, newer maybe. NEEW. Are they? Man, sorry. Man. Everybody makes great stuff.
Yeah.
Cheap or expensive.
Yeah.
Great. You'll be happy with it. But yeah, so we
just don't buy the unsponsored, just unbranded, really bad cheap
knockoff stuff.
Yeah.
You guys also use the screen that you guys use.
Small HD.
Small HD. Yeah.
We have a Small HD 702 Bright that we use for filmmaking, which is super handy for outdoor shooting. And obviously I'll throw in LUTs on there and seeing what you're getting. Dana Dolly. I'm trying to think of anything else that's significant that we've got.
A DJI Ronin?
DJI Ronin maybe. S. Not a Ronin, it's a Ronin S.
That's right.
Step down. Because it's Kurt's and partly mine, half mine.
This is what we do now. We just share equipment whenever.
50-50 mine. I've contributed very little, but it's half mine. ICANN teleprompter as well. Green screen. Yeah, those kinds of things. So we've got, we started, and that's taken us 11 years to get here. And so it's not you walk out tomorrow and drop $50,000 on equipment, but you have to grow to be there. And so I can remember, 10 years ago, looking at some of these other productions and going, I can't do that. I don't have those things. And so there's a little bit of patience, but then there's also thinking outside the box. And so there's some DIY, tons of DIY stuff that we've done out there to try to create the look. And
what is the jankiest thing that you've done?
Oh, jankiest thing. Early on, we built our own shotgun microphone, or our own boom pole, which was might have been a Film Riot hack. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Where you take a light bulb changing pole No. It was a paint roller extension pole.
Okay.
You take the connector off the top, and then you drill a hole that allows you to attach it to a shotgun mount. So we couldn't afford the, what are they, like $200 boom pole? I mean, that's talking about how low budget we were back then. So that was one of the first DIY things we did, was building our own shotgun pole. Jankiest though.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool hack.
That's pretty, yeah. That's a good one. So, not janky, but everyone has this, especially as creatives and filmmakers. What is one of the best shoots you've ever done, and what is a horror story, like bad time? You don't have to name names or anything, but if you want to call people out, that's totally fine too.
No,
it's probably us.
No. Most of the ones that go bad are usually when I'm responsible, obviously. But no, best shoots. I'm trying to think. We've had several good shoots. I think really what contributes to a great shoot is lots of time and energy on the pre-production, like you're talking about. Anytime I've skimped on that, it usually is a train wreck in some capacity. It may not be total, and it may not necessarily show up to everybody else, when they see the final product, but you know it. You evaluate your work. You go, man, I should have done this, and this. But because I didn't prepare well, I didn't deliver on those things. And so usually when it's a thrown together deal, it feels thrown together. It looks thrown together. It doesn't look that great. Or in another byproduct of that, particularly when in the team context, is your team suffers from that. They are miserable because they don't know what they're doing, or they're just having to throw stuff together, or they're way longer than what you told them they were going to be doing. I think of horror story projects. This had nothing really to do with pre-production, I would say, but we did a Christmas project 2-3 years ago, and this was right when you guys started. Super long day. Yeah. We were way undercrewed for what we were doing.
Wait, were we a part of it?
Yeah, this was the first Christmas production you guys were on. Yeah. You guys were there, and then Farley
was sick.
He is my right-hand man at the time. Okay, yeah. And we spent the whole day before pre-production on this. We were filming in a house. We tinted a window, built a giant black tarp tent outside the window.
Like
put a
scaffolding?
Green screen. Yeah, built all the scaffolding. It was on the second floor. Why would we not want to shoot on the first floor? This room had to be on the second floor. So had to build this huge scaffolding, set up all this green screen, all this stuff. And then the next day we get to film, and Justin is sick as a dog. And so he's literally, as soon as we get done and ready to start rolling, he just goes and lays on the floor. And he sleeps on the floor in another bedroom the entire day because he is dead. He should have gone home. I should have sent him home, but I was too needy to be able to do that.
But we need you.
Exactly. So he goes and crashes, and we shoot. And there's, I think it was going to be like a 6-hour shoot. It ends up going for like 10, I think. And towards hour 8, 9, 10, you guys start having to leave because you had other commitments and we're way past time. Yeah. And so it gets to the end, and it's just me and Farley walking around like death, like a zombie, and tearing everything down. And it's when did we shoot? We shot that in October, I think. And it's still here in Arkansas, still super humid. And so we're tearing down all this equipment, loading up a trailer at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it's just hot, and is pretty miserable. And so the more people you always, just like time, you always need more people than you think you need. I think the last Christmas, the shoot we did that you spearheaded for us, I mean, we had a pretty decent sized crew, but it was still a lot of moving pieces. You know, we were pulling focus. We're doing these light cues. Justin's manning the camera. You're directing. There's just so many.
Somebody doing set changes during the
shoot.
And
that was in context. It was a one take. It was 2 separate one takes, but we blended it together.
Grayson,
just throw
who I call Trevor, is back there with the blanket. He's on set hiding in the dark, trying to hide props and stuff that are just outside of camera view. And then once the camera turns, he's revealing it. And so the more people, the more planning, and the more people you have around you, the better those shoots have gone, I've noticed. And so some of the stuff I'm the most proud of is when I had all my guys with me and gals, they're helping. And we put in the time ahead of time to get to know the stories and to really think through. Anything that's rushed, I'm not usually proud of, but the stuff that I've really thought through, I feel better about it because I go, okay, how can I do this in a way that really complements the story? And then you really are able to put your best foot forward on that. So
cool. I remember, and that's actually a pretty good horror, at least it wasn't like a client situation or things like that,
And we're in a very forgiving environment with the church context and stuff.
But Farley was just gone during the shoot. That was pretty rough.
You guys are manning a jib that's on a dolly that's gliding over a bed. You guys probably had never had any kind of experience like that. And all of a sudden it's like, here, you're going to do this. And you're like, wait, what?
This is pretty much exactly it. Yeah. So with that, obviously creative work has very high highs and low lows at times. So what helps you during those low times to keep going forward and keep pushing through?
Yeah, we do. We have seasons in the church life. That was a pencil sharpener.
We keep hearing all these noises.
This is literally the loudest set we've had.
Yeah.
We have lots of, filming at the summit, there's always some kind of noise going on. Whoops, where was I talking?
Seasons.
High highs, low lows.
Yeah.
Yes. So here at the church, we have lots of different seasons that are full bore, everybody, all hands on deck, lots of content. that's the fall and then the spring. And then the summer is usually a lull. And the summer I would characterize as being like normal workload. Not like you're just sitting around bored, but that's when it's just like normal time. But heading into Christmas is usually our busiest season because you're doing a lot of different production stuff for the fall, and then Christmas is right there against it. And so you're rolling right into that. And so usually January is one of those, and we do our Christmas stuff early in December month. And so there's usually, you're able to come off of that and have family time. And so that's usually a pretty big, like, you hit that low and you're just like trying to recharge and remember what your kids' names are again and all that kind of stuff. You're just back home. And so that's what's really nice here is they understand that, they realize, you're going to put in, long days and nights and work hard. And then they're not going to be like, hey, where are you at? You're not here, so there's a lot of flexibility with schedule and stuff like that. So they trust us and to know how to manage our schedules. But that's where just, being around you guys, seeing what you're doing, hearing your thoughts, evaluating projects on the back end keeps to spur me on. When I'm sitting in my office by myself for the first 7 or 8 years that I was on staff here, you don't have that. You don't have any of that camaraderie. So you're just trying to juice yourself up, and keep yourself driven. And that's where watching a lot of other content, being inspired by what other people do. Austin Stone, I didn't even mention Austin Stone. Yeah, there in Texas.
Also Story Team.
Yeah, they have a Story Team. That's the originators, as far as I know, of that name. But they put together some fantastic storytelling. And it just feels really, really, really authentic and real, the way they do their stuff. And so it's really well done. And so seeing that stuff helps to kind of, when you kind of hit that, not depression, but that you're just completely worn out, going and watching other stuff, being inspired kind of helps to recharge your batteries.
Like our demo reels, right?
Yes. Yeah. I just put that on repeat and lay in bed and listen to it. Great soundtracks. The visuals are
you're
terrible.
just listening to that wonderful music, music, and then just
heartless. This
he watches them to know this is exactly what I don't want to do. So, okay, I was gonna do that, but not since Kurt did it.
If this is the kind of content that's out there, I really am burdened to make something. This is all that the world is left with if I don't do something.
But I know. I mean, you're talking about being burned out. I mean, I don't know if you don't mind talking about this, but I mean, you did say. There's a period you hit where you're like, golly, I don't know if I can keep, doing this. I think every creative kind of hits that moment of like, am I able to keep doing this? Like, is this worth it? Is this worth my time? Am I even doing my job well? What was it like? I mean, how did you come out of that season?
Yeah, I got probably 3-4 years ago, hit kind of a wall. Had been doing it a long time. This is around the time we were kind of getting, this was probably around the time our second child was born, our second daughter was born. And it was just craziness, change and stuff like that happening at home. And work is just, like I said, continually working really, really hard. We didn't have a team dynamic, volunteer
that was
time.
Right before we came.
Yeah.
We saved Kyle.
The fresh wind in my sails.
But he just pictures our faces at night, and he's like,
I can do this.
Why I do what I do.
I get up every morning for you guys. Because you're calling me, asking me technical questions.
Kyle, where is this?
Yeah. I got to get up and go. No, but I hit a wall and just I was getting very envious of what other churches were doing. Other churches had, you look at some of these other churches that'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 people on staff doing what I was doing. And so I just longed. The grass is greener on the other side. If I could go do that, I would be fulfilled. I wouldn't, seeing all my inadequacies, the things I didn't like doing, they have people that are hired to do those things. And so I if I could just go do that, I'd be really happy. And this might be different for some of the other people. But for me, obviously spirituality, my faith, that kind of thing was a big, important component of this. And so I kind of went back to what was my calling, and so I was praying about this stuff and struggling with this and not afraid to say, God, I'm unhappy where I'm at. Really, really frustrated, with what I'm doing. And I want to do that. I want to go be on somebody's team. And one of the things that God told me in that time was, I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to use you to do that. So that was a promise that I got from him that I really started saying, okay, all right, I can do this. Once I had that vision for, hey, this is something that can happen here. And one of the cool things is, again, speaking highly of our leadership here, they recognize the difficulties that I was having in this capacity. At the time when I first started here, I was doing a dual role. So I had 2 job titles, which was video producer and the IT guy. I was the technology guy for the church. And so we were growing to our third location. We have 3 locations in Central Arkansas, and servicing all 3 of those locations plus doing video full time was just something's got to give on those 2 things. And so they split my job in half and hired an IT guy. And so all that, between that and then, like you said, you guys came in around that time, finding people. There's so much noise in here. Finding people in the church that love to do, that love to create, like you guys. You guys were hungry to do that kind of stuff, and so I found myself in the course of like 6 months going from this crazy job description to a very manageable job description, but then also surrounded by a bunch of people that were really hungry to create stuff together, and so. That all was kind of the beginning of God's fulfillment of that promise for me, seeing that take shape and start creating stuff. And the last 3 years have been way, way more enjoyable. And you guys, with the way your jobs are set up as freelancers, office with me, so we hang out a lot, and so that's very encouraging. You're sitting around other creatives, and so I can't speak highly enough about surrounding yourself with creative people, trying to create. Maybe there's people out there that like to be creative in a void, but that's not me. I thrive off of that, and so having others really just pushes you along. Like you said, sharing your demo reels, bouncing video ideas. Hey, look at this composited image that I've made, or this composite video I've done for visual effects. What do you see in here?
Watch my rough cut.
Watch my rough cut. Yeah. It's another wedding. Oh my gosh. That's the same drone shot. Just kidding. So those kinds of things are super important, and that's really what kind of got me through all that. Is really just recognizing, hey, this is a season, and then finding a way out of that season.
Yeah. What would you say to What would you say to just being in the church context to other maybe churches and leadership who go, we really want what you guys are doing, really like what you guys are doing? How in the world would they even get started, or how would you encourage churches to get started getting into the creative space?
Well, there's never been a better, easier, more affordable time to get started, as you guys know. I mean, what used to be a very narrow set of options for people in this kind of budget tier of churches, what churches typically spend, your average church, you'd have to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars to get started. Whereas now, you've got these little DSLRs and affordable microphones and really affordable lighting. And then just a bunch of, again, those DIY ways of finding it, of getting started. And so I think the important thing is we have, even on our leadership, both our elders and our staff leadership, there's a lot of creative people on that. And so they believe in what we're doing. And so they empower us to do that. And I've had that. I've been fortunate enough, even going back to when I was in high school, I had somebody, a youth pastor that just took chances on young, dumb kids that had ideas, and so back then we were editing VHS to VHS. So you'd have 2 VCRs connected together, and you'd play one and then hit record on this one and then stop. Yes. And that'd be how we'd edit. I mean, it's terrible stuff, but they said, hey, what do we have to lose? And they would have supervision over that to make sure, we're not doing anything blasphemous or anything that would be, something sacrilegious for what we were trying to accomplish. But empowering the next generation, empowering young people, is where you really want to start. I think as a church trying to get started, that people invested in me, even before video was a thing that you could really do. And I didn't really understand what that was going to look like, but I had several people take chances with me. And so that's something I've tried to do. Justin's a great example of that. He was a guy that was in our student ministry as a teenager that loved this stuff. And so he hung around everything, and you just start giving them shots, giving them opportunities, and they love it. And so as a church leadership, if you can invest in that in your church, putting money into some gear, again, you don't have to go out and blow the bank on it, but get some decent gear, then people say, hey, this church values this, and that will attract creative people, and they'll go and try to do stuff. And then you don't have to go, Lukas is a big proponent of this, you don't have to go to college for this. I think
Don't go to college.
I think the most I've learned that's helped me on a day-to-day basis as a creative professional is what I've learned online, more so than what I got in my degree. My degree was great and helped a lot of the technical foundation of what I do. and a lot of the storytelling side of stuff. But in terms of actual production work, you can find so much of that now for free, completely for free online, and really grow yourself. And so doing stupid stuff, ridiculous videos in the student ministry where kids love it and they're very forgiving of it too. You know, you do a ridiculous video there that you'd never want to show, you know, in a Sunday morning context with some crazy visual effects thing that you pull off. You do that in that context. They get to learn how to do those things. They get to try new things. And then you start kind of honing that skill in the more traditional context of Sunday mornings. And you really build that team up, but it takes time. You do not have that. I mean, you may be fortunate to have your church may attract some professionals that do this full time, and they come in and start putting their hand to the plow and start doing that stuff. But you need to play the long game on this, investing continually in what your resources are, and then investing in the people and empowering them and encouraging. I can't speak highly enough of that either. If I wasn't as encouraged as I've been by so many of our leadership, so many people in my life, then I probably wouldn't have the strength to keep going, because I look back, because nobody can be more critical of our work than us. You know, we look and we go, I'm missing it. I'm failing big time here. But having other people that point out the good, and it's easy to see the bad, but if you can recognize the good stuff, that's like, okay, there's a nugget of something to work with there, and I can keep just watering that and growing that and getting stronger there.
Yeah. We are always like continually learning stuff. And I've seen that even like I started out as graphic design major in college, and it did help. Like a lot of the stuff in graphic design does translate over. But I learned so much stuff more. You learn it on the job or by doing things like you're saying. And I've always been a proponent of like, not necessarily for everyone, don't go to college. You have to be very disciplined to do this thing, but be disciplined to, if you can do this, don't go to college, and discipline yourself to find a lot of stuff online and learn that way. And then my advice, find yourself a Kyle, or you can find Kyle and just pester him to death with questions.
I was just walking through Kroger.
Yeah. Find Kyle. Just find Kyle and ask him questions.
They told me to talk to you about this.
Yeah. About any field.
Yeah.
Not
just video. Yeah.
For me, it's video, but if you want to ask him about, nursing or something like that,
sociology,
ask him. Yeah.
Like mother nursing or like hospital?
No, hospital nursing. It's I heard it and I was like, that does sound a little weird.
That's
but
yeah,
I
got some experience in that.
All right,
meet the parents. Can you milk me? We've gone this long without a movie reference. I have to.
We have. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that because I want to go back to that. But one of the things you were talking about is just encouragement to press on. Like whenever you're looking at a project and you're like, hey, there is something good here. How do you define success for a project? Like whenever you're thinking about doing a project and then it's, you go through the pre-production, the production, and you're done and it's out there. How do you define success for that project?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think, obviously
I wrote it myself.
Oh my God. I think an important, let's hit the,
that was some pre-production right there.
Can we have wah, please? There we go.
There it is.
Oh my gosh.
Rim shot. No, I think in terms of defining success, obviously it's, do I feel like I hit the mark? And that can be subjective to a degree. Yes, I accomplished this video. We finished it. Which step one. Sometimes it can be harder than you think. Vision. But that's not your fault. That's not your fault.
It's been like a year.
But there's some projects.
Just real quick, Vision is a short film project of Lucas's that may or may not be complete by the time this comes out. But as of right now, it is not complete.
It won't be completed by the time this is out.
Speaking of Kurt's changing hair patterns,
exactly.
over the course of a project.
I thought about that as soon as you said that he.
Yeah, I still look the same.
Did you save any of that? We could just glue it back on. We can make it a little fuller.
Take it from his beard.
Yeah. This will be a real good compositing effect.
Yeah.
We added hair. Extensions. So determining success can be subjective, but you know when you really hit the mark on something. But again, that's where encouragement helps know, hey, was I successful in this? Did people recognize that? I'm not saying you need to base your whole identity off of, does anybody love me? Did anybody say a good thing? Did anybody give me a high five? But I think we as creatives that work around other creatives, if we're not encouraging other people, and I don't always do a great job of this, but recognizing the hard work that somebody else has put in and calling out the things like, hey man, that's really good, or I really like that, or wow, how'd you pull that off? You know, those kind of things I think really help people spur them on. And then just, does this accomplish the best way? Can I think of a better way to do this, you know, in terms of, did I accomplish my project or my goal in this? And then learning from that. Cause you're always, I can't ever think there's nothing I would have done differently about that. I've never gotten to the end of a project and said that. There's always at least a couple things, even on the best things that I'm the most happy with. There's always a few things that I want to improve on. And so I think recognizing those and not being not deterred, but, you know,
scared or like,
discouraged, not being discouraged by those things, but being, you know, and that's again where that positive encouragement comes along. Kayla.
Oh, wow. Pete, there's his audition for worship team.
Let's get that.
I'm the least musical person ever. That should be obvious by now. But so I think just evaluating everything. I don't be afraid to evaluate, and don't be afraid to evaluate it with other people.
I think another thing too is sometimes we get stuck in. There's only. I mean, not us. I'm just saying people in general. I do this. Oh. You think there's only one way to do it, but what we are in is not a science; it's an art. And so there are more than one. There's more than a dozen ways to do certain things.
To skin a cat,
or to skin a cat, or to film something.
Which is disturbing. Why would you skin a cat?
Really and why would you think of multiple ways to do it? Like I've already done it the traditional way, but
how could I do this?
Let's use a spoon this time.
And why do I have so many cats to skin?
All right, enough of the serious talk. So let's talk about movies.
Yes.
So what is your favorite movie? And let's just nerd out for a long time on this.
Yes, this is not going to be nerd out. This is going to be my favorite movie of all time is...
Oh, that's the Walt Womp Womp.
I know, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Home Alone.
Oh! Wait.
He
didn't turn the volume up.
My bad.
Boo.
Yeah, Home Alone.
Home Alone.
That's my desert island movie. It's not it's not the most well done movie of all time.
So why is it your favorite movie?
I don't know. There's some nostalgia element to it, but I could watch that movie a million times. I don't. It's ridiculous, but
it's Joe Pesci constantly going.
Yes,
that's what it is.
And not knowing Joe Pesci as a kid watching that, and then later on seeing Goodfellas, all these other movies where you're like, wow, they took a risk on him. Like, how many takes do they have to do where he does the instead of the real deal? It's pretty impressive. But Home Alone, love that movie. I watch more movies than most people watch together.
Just for context, we were all about to go see. It is approximately 10:30 a.m. Yeah. We're about to go see Spider-Man: Far From Home at 12:30 on a Wednesday.
IMAX, baby.
Yeah,
big
freelance
screen.
life.
Lucas's first time IMAX, right?
No.
I thought you said you never seen IMAX.
No, I said I have seen it. I said I don't like that they only have one.
We saw Iron Man in IMAX together.
Why didn't I get invited to that? Because we didn't know each other.
That was like
you were just starting a summit.
Yeah, you guys were 10 and I was 30. That's why it would have been creepy for me to go with you guys.
My dad's there, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wade.
It was this guy. Don't worry, we'll know each other in 11 years.
Yeah,
just go with
it. Yeah, just go with it. It has been only because Iron Man started off that whole MCU, baby.
Man.
And they're re-releasing Avengers Endgame at this point. I think they just re-released it.
You've already talked about this, and you've already vented.
But is it a later episode?
Wow,
I don't know.
Getting close makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. But you have to whisper.
We're going to go see it again. We're going to see Avengers. I've seen it twice in theaters. We're going to see it
How much footage have they actually added? How many minutes?
It's all post-credits that they've added. Oh. It's a partially finished
It's all post-credits?
Yeah, nothing. And that's the thing is there's a lot of confusion out there. A lot of people think that it's in the movie's somehow deleted now scenes. 3 hours and 20 minutes of scenes. But there's
they just forgot to add some crew members on the... Crap, we totally forgot them. We got to add in this section real quick and re-release it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Credits, just for the credits, yeah. But there's supposed to be some bloopers, I think. There's a Stan Lee tribute, and then there's a partially finished deleted scene with the Hulk. And so,
partially finished with the Hulk.
So I'm thinking
it's just Mark Ruffalo in a green suit.
Yeah, dots all over his face. And I paid $13 for this, but I will pay $13 to see that again because that's
shorter than everyone.
Epic final battle there. So it's
Lucas,
great.
what's your favorite movie? I don't know if
my favorite movie. Yeah, we've talked about it on. Well, no, we didn't. We didn't get to talk about it on. So my absolute favorite movie, and it's not one movie, so I'm just gonna cheat a little bit. Is the Lord of the Rings series?
Oh yeah, that's right.
It is I remember.
I haven't seen that yet.
Was
just kidding.
It was the year it came out. I did not get to go see it in theaters. I was pretty young when it came out.
Any of them?
I didn't see the first one. I saw the other two. When was it?
2001 was the first one.
It was the first one. So I was 10 at that point. So it was kind of like
my
parents. I was like on that line of like, will my parents let me watch it or not?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about it before it came out, and my dad got me on a Saturday and was like, "Hey, I have this movie that you need to watch." And he said it's really awesome. It's like medieval type stuff, and there's like trolls in it. And at that time, I'd seen the previews for the first Harry Potter. The second Harry Potter that has that weird looking troll in it, and it's not the greatest CG. I've got to say. And I was like, okay, like maybe this is. And I went down and watched that movie, and it blew my mind. It was the first movie that I remember like watching, and I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, I want that to be real. And it made me feel like it was real. Yeah. And it started this like I want to make movies. Like,
those were ridiculous. I remember seeing Return of the King and midnight premiere.
Yeah.
And everyone was dressed up. I was dressed up as a Nazgul, but I was so embarrassed. Even though everybody else was dressed up in the theater, I was so embarrassed that I was dressed up that I took it all. Whoa there, Kyle.
Sorry, I had to get that. There's a gnat. Hey, I got the gnat.
You did.
But I remember I took off my costume. I was so embarrassed. I had clothes underneath, obviously. Dude, that was not the issue.
You were a Nazgul.
I would rather be naked than in a costume.
I know. It was like the most
I was dressed up as Legolas.
It literally was like
with like a full
wig
a
robe.
On.
I could see you pulling off a Legolas. What were you, a troll?
I didn't.
A Nazgul.
Oh.
A troll.
He just went as is.
Yeah. I was the Goblin King from the Hobbit movies. That's what I went.
So you were completely CG'd?
Yeah,
and weren't there?
And had the most neck fat. I mean, what that? Oh, I think they did. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, let me specify. The Lord of the Rings movies, not the Hobbit movies.
Lucas was the first person I talked to who genuinely hated the first Hobbit. Like everyone else was like
very frustrated.
I think everyone was just drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, I'm not saying they're like terrible. I still enjoy most aspects of them. But Lucas was the first person I talked to, and he was like, "I hated it. It was so bad."
I think, I think if they had released the Hobbit series first and then went into the Lord of the Rings series, you probably would have had a better fanfare, more enjoyment of it. Having not read any of the books, but I think people.
You've never read the books?
No.
See, and
I don't read any of the books.
He doesn't read books. No books.
I am not a reader. I am a watcher.
But beyond that, like it was beyond the story for me. Yeah. It was the actual filmmaking of the movies.
I hated the 48 frames per second.
I hated that.
I felt like you could see all the prosthetics, all the makeup, the bald caps.
And I get out. A lot of people have made arguments that it's a more whimsical book, which I absolutely agree. But they took it to a level that was
a little campy,
beyond
cheesy.
It was cheesy and over the top. In the fact that, like, again, if you watch Lord of the Rings,
that's the problem.
It feels real.
Yeah.
And it's because they use a lot of props. They match the CG with props, with practicals, and it's so much better. And they just went so far the other direction in this. And you can't not compare. Because it's the same director, it's the same world. Right. And so you basically setting yourself up, here's these two movies. And, they're still enjoyable. I've gone back and watched them since, and I don't, like, hate them. Yeah. Don't like the CG. Yeah. They added some, like, comedic things to CG that made it kind of ridiculous, but
and like I think the biggest thing is that they took a book that's I don't even know if it's half as big as like one of the Lord of the Rings, and they made it into a trilogy. And it's like
it was unnecessary.
I think was it originally going to be 2?
It's going to be 2 with Guillermo del Toro directing.
Yeah,
and then he backed out.
Yep, and Peter Jackson has come out and like talked a little bit about that whole process and how difficult and crazy it was, and how he was like really. He was at a point where he's like, I don't know my story, and I want to wait on this, and it was pushed into production doing it more. Studio. So I understand that stuff happens and stuff, but again, Lord of the Rings is like golden, and part of that is nostalgia. I think that plays a huge role. Is whenever you're younger and you see something, you're way easier to forgive mistakes or things like that. Yeah. But Lord of the Rings doesn't have any mistakes.
Well, it holds up. I was listening to Kyle has gotten me hooked on John Campea.
Yes.
And they were
John
talking.
Campea.
They have
fantastic.
He and his crew had a podcast that come out.
John Campea is a fantastic movie.
Podcast pundit, reviewer.
And they were talking about all the they were judging the best picture winners of the 2000s. So from 2000 to 2009.
And best movie, worst movie podcast.
Yeah, best movie, worst movie. Yeah, for best pictures in the 2000s. And one of the guys picked Return of the King, and of course that was just a groundbreaking. It won all 11 Oscars, tied with Titanic and Ben-Hur. And it just blew the roof off that thing. Mine is still Remember the Titans. That's my favorite movie.
Really?
I'm a Denzel guy. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings is out there. I could literally watch Lord of the Rings on a weekly basis. But Remember the Titans, the soundtrack and just the acting. I don't know, just like it just gives me chills. Like that whole.
It's great.
I love sports movies. Hoosiers,
Disney, just quality. I feel like Disney feel goods is all over that Remember the Titans movie.
Yeah,
so good.
I love it.
Let's look here because I'm gonna check on these Rotten Tomatoes scores to see if Rotten Tomatoes is on par with our reviews because obviously we're the standard.
I'm gonna guess Remember the Titans is at like 60%.
60%?
Yeah.
73.
Oh, okay.
With a audience score of 93.
Yeah.
Let's go to Home Alone.
53%.
53?
No.
I bet probably memorized it.
I'm going to say
I'm optimistic. I've never looked this up.
65%.
Oh,
yes. With an 80% audience score. So, Lord of the Rings has
it's going to be high.
It's like 91 for Fellowship, 95 for Two Towers, and 93 for Return.
You know, the longer I live, not that sounds like a weird way of saying that.
The more I live,
the older I get, like honestly,
the more I continue to breathing.
Two Towers was always my least favorite.
Yeah,
I love Fellowship because I loved all the intro stuff and all the intro pieces, and I love that for the majority of the film they're all together up until Gandalf falls with the Balrog, and Return of the King, of course, is just the best. But the older I get, I really like Two Towers. I mean, Helm's Deep.
I feel like that one's the audience favorite. A lot of times when I talk to people, Two Towers is one of their and that Helm's Deep battle scene. I've seen some stuff breaking down that where that whole battle is a story in and of itself of like peaks and highs and then lows and then like it's just fantastic.
I think it was the longest battle ever, right, for a film.
I think so. It's like 10 to 15 minutes, isn't it? Like something, it's something crazy. But I did not know. You brought this up because I'm obviously a huge Pixar fan. There's like Lord of the Rings and there's Pixar really high. But we've been talking about that Lord of the Rings is one of those trilogies that has a really high rating amongst
consistently
all the movies.
Three of them.
Yeah, and that's not done very often.
Right.
But you just brought up because Toy Story 4 just came out.
Right.
Toy Story has 100% on
Golly.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Come
the
on.
original Toy Story. And
1995.
consider this was their second movie? Pixar's second movie to
Toy Story?
Yeah,
That
no,
was
it was the
their
first one.
first,
First
yeah.
one, Bugs Life. I was getting that confused. It's their first movie to make, and I got 100% in Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see.
The only Pixar movie that has a bad score is Cars 3. I think all the rest of them are like 74% and higher.
Yeah,
but
Toy Story.
But even still, across the trilogy, Toy Story 2 is 90
No,
or
it's
is 100.
100.
Toy Story 3, which a lot of people like better than
It's
the first
98.
two, is 98.
Yeah.
And then Toy Story 4, as of this taping, is still sitting at
98.
Golly.
Out of 400,
4% off.
out of 400 points, they're only 4% away from perfect. Perfect.
That
They're stellar. They're
blows
stellar,
me
storytelling.
away.
I did
Cool,
like Toy Story
cool
4.
fact, I think I told you guys this. Toy Story, the original, edited CG animated in Softimage, if I'm not mistaken, a program called Softimage. We had that in our high school in that class East I was telling you about.
Really?
They have amazing tools and things that are donated by companies to schools, which is just awesome. Again, putting expensive and high dollar toys in the hands of kids and letting them just be creative. But they use that Softimage program. It took and obviously they didn't like build the whole thing and then hit go on render, but the total time for render is estimated to be about a year of rendering time for Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
With these massive render farms
Yeah.
cranking out a frame a day.
And that was the first full CG animated movie, correct? Because Pixar,
they would do
Pixar
elements
had
in
just
movies, but not like scenes in movies. But this is the first.
They did a lot of
full-blown.
hand drawing stuff because Pixar was the first to develop that software. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I remember I saw recently the Toy Story 2. Of course, that way, we talk about second movies, like Two Towers being maybe more revered critically. I mean, for a lot of people, Toy Story 2 is like the best one. And I did not realize how awful the production was for that. Like they had to completely redo. Like they got in like
they
months
did the
to do
entire
it,
thing.
and then they like whoever was direct. It was they'd given some other guy the ability to direct, or they'd let him do it, and he presented. And they were all like, John Lasseter was like, "This is terrible. Like this is awful," and they had to completely redo it
after like a year and a half into production.
And this was the craziest part. They all the characters, all their project files got deleted.
Dude, how do you know this?
It's on YouTube. It's one of the Joe Blow movies.
Really? This is like straight out of the Creative Inc.
Yeah.
Catmull book.
Yeah.
So
all their files got deleted. They're like, oh my gosh, one of the producers was a mom and working professional. She brought a bunch of her stuff home. She happened to have it on her home computer. Everything.
Yeah.
So they backed up. That is nuts.
They said that they had somebody had accidentally deleted or killed it, and one by one they were seeing characters disappear from their project files because it was on their server, and they were like calling the thing, going, pull the plug on the server, just pull the plug on the server before anything else happens, and they didn't get it in time and stuff. But he talked about like a few mistakes they had done. One was there's like a code to delete everything in case of like I don't remember what it was for, but it was not hard enough to
accidentally put it in.
To accidentally put it in. It was like not safeguards in place. And then 2, their backup drives weren't working. And so, there were some problems with it. And so they realized both of those mistakes. But then there was the third random event, which was that this mom had started working from home and had
serendipitously
just been racking up files.
Saved who knows how much money by having that, not having to rebuild
and
all
work.
that.
Oh my goodness, that's so crazy.
It was a lot harder back then.
Yeah.
All right, real quick.
So
who are you following on YouTube? We talked about this. In
Everybody.
person.
No,
do you follow Glasslight Films?
Not if I have to. Just kidding. No, Corridor Digital, Film Riot, Marquis Brown, Casey Neistat, who else? Philip Bloom, obviously. Which I don't feel like he posts a ton to YouTube.
Not anymore, at least.
He's more so on Vimeo, but Linus Tech Tips, even, they do some pretty, it's a tech-based YouTube channel, but they invest heavily in their production value, and so they've got a whole full-blown studio that they built out, which is just really cool to see, and they're shooting on Reds, stuff like that, which is amazing for just doing YouTube videos, which some people talk about that. But those guys, who else? Dave Dugdale does great stuff. Caleb Pike for DSLR video shooter. Peter McKinnon, if we don't mention him, which you shouldn't have to because he's just awesome and everybody should already know who he is.
Yeah. I think that was just one of those assumed.
It's a given, but so many different people, and then you get connected from those guys to other people, other YouTubers. It's awesome. YouTube, I think I've been reading this, and it's probably common knowledge by now, but YouTube is becoming a larger search engine than even Google is. And so people go, when you want to know something, you don't Google it, you YouTube search it, and so
and do that with like tons of, like, if I'm like trying to figure out an effect or something like that, I'll
it's
skip.
Out there. Andrew Kramer, Video Copilot. Haven't mentioned him. And you're thinking about doing an effect. Just amazing.
Who was just guest appearance on Corridor Digital, talking about CGI. Great effects.
Series.
He's coming on here, right? You guys know Andrew Kramer?
Yeah, Andrew Kramer.
Video
he'll be
Copilot?
on. Yeah,
Season
he'll be on season 2.
15.
Hey, what's
2.
up, guys?
If we say it, it has to happen, right?
Yeah. He was on the fence while watching this episode. Until this point, now he's determined to do it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
People fly to Little Rock a lot, right?
Yeah.
They can just stop by.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
It's a major hub in
the creative space.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
In Arkansas.
In all of Arkansas. Yeah. In all of Arkansas. It's one of 2 major hubs.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's scale.
Awesome.
That's so funny.
I would ask you where people can find you online, but
following other people.
But
or I had that rehearsed. I knew that was probably going to be asked because it's always about there. Yeah, I don't post a ton, but I am on there a lot, creepily looking at everybody else's stuff.
But you can see a ton of work on the Summit's Vimeo page. I have it up now, and there's like everything that is done in Summit is put on there.
Yeah.
Real quick clarifying, there's a Summit Church in North Carolina too.
We are not them.
We're not them.
They would like for us to clarify that.
This is vimeo.com/the summit.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Summit. Yeah.
You can find a bunch of stuff we've done.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Kurt and Lucas's demo reels.
Yeah, you can.
From 2015.
Yeah.
Yikes. Nobody wants to see that. Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for
coming on, Kyle.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of fun.
This is great being the first episode.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Connor, you suck.
Perfect.
Yeah. Athletically assault this. But no, seriously, thanks for having me, guys. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, been good. Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.